news, everyone!
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the office hours. My name is Paul, Berserker01, Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender at the Astropub. Let me pull open the live broadcasting thing. Hold on. There we go. There we go. Welcome. Let's get to the... That's already muted. That's good. Let's get to the office, shall we? Oh, first I gotta fix this. There we go. Oh, wait. Now let's get to the office. Hello and welcome to the office hours. My name is Paul, Berserker01, Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender at the Astropub, your moderator at the captain's table, and your professor on Galactic historian. I know. I've seen it in my chat. People have been tweeting it at me. I know the Redeemer is in 315.1, and 315.1 is in PTU. It's nice that people are so diligent about garbage collecting these days. But I don't know why you got to keep telling me about your garbage. No one should be that happy about garbage. It's unhealthy, y'all. Y'all need to seek some help, please. Welcome, Red, Papa Hefe. Hey, Papa Hefe. Grim, Hellcat, Lido Drift, G Sharp, Zark, Exener. Who else is there? Sandgroper, Hellcat, APG Diesel. Don't worry, once 315.1 goes live, you can host Garbage Cleaner stream with the regular crew. This is going to have some tsundere vibes pretty soon. What's the one where they want to kill Senpai? Is that a yandere? Or is that just kill all of the whatever that one is? Fucking hate that goddamn ship. And I don't get why everybody loves it. It looks ugly. I know why people think it's going to be some sort of one-off beat stick, but I'd rather CIG admit that there is no sound in space and made all the ship weapons listen to the different Inferno's main gun. Nah. I only care about the Redeemer because I have an Andromeda to Redeemer CCU. A lot of people do. Do we think the Redeemer... What the fuck is everyone asking? No, stop asking about the Redeemer. I don't know what to tell you. Do we think the Redeemer is going to be anywhere near the original price? I don't see it in stores, but it's likely to be available during the... Yeah, it's definitely going to be available during the IAE. Cleanse the system of heresy. Welcome to the office hours. This is our live stream, if you haven't already guessed. That we do every Thursday. It's an AMA where we kind of talk about some specific topics. I usually do a short aside, I've been calling it. Someone suggested something else. I can't remember what it is, like a soliloquy or something like that. It's probably going to end up just be calling the lecture or whatever. But a little segment that I pull out that's kind of more for YouTube to try to get people to come join us live and ask questions and do the things. This time we're going to talk about persistence and streaming. Persistence streaming and server meshing. Persistence and streaming. It's like a good TwitchCon panel. Persistence and streaming and Star Citizen. We'll talk about that, and then we're also going to talk about, we're going to read through the Squadron 42 monthly report, because I asked last week, because someone suggested it, and I said, I don't really want to do it on a regular basis, and unless there's some interest in it. And there was enough interest in it that people were like, hey, yeah, I'd like you to read, let's check out Squadron 42. So we're going to go through Squadron 42's monthly report and see if it's much different from Star Citizen, because I've done that before and it never really panned out to be much different. So, monologue, fireside chat, whatever it's gonna be called. You missed my smoking jacket and pipe. I need like a bespoke asset for a background for that one. Before you do that, can you talk about the ISC vid? Sure. I mean, I watched ISC. It seemed interesting enough. I'm not surprised that they did service experts, and they've done sprints where they've worked with the Royal Air Force and brought on people who know what they're talking about when it comes to dogfighting. They've researched and read actual dogfighting materials to try to kind of get an idea for what the game is, what it should be feel like. I mean, it's a Chris fucking Roberts game. Chris Roberts is obsessed with aviation, if y'all don't know. The man is nuts. If the man had enough money, he would buy his own private fucking Air Force with ships from all over the ages of aviation, because he's obsessed with flight. That's why he's made so many flight games. So yeah, I was surprised he did something like that. They didn't really mention Arma much. Does that mean that it's quite a way off? No idea. They did mention that there are certain things that they don't want to do until Armor is in, which had to do with gun mechanics. But if the other information about CIG wanting to increase the size of their studios to a significant degree, bears true from all of the PR reports that they've been releasing, wanting to have a 1,000-person studio by 2025, they're going to have a released game to support that size of a studio. So a 700-person studio by 2023, even in planning, that's doubling the size of the studio that currently exists in the UK, would require some significant release in order for them to pay for that many people. Because they're already reaching the edges of their ability to pay their staff with their current income, even with higher incomes from sales and stuff like that. So if that's the case, then Squadron 42 has to release before 2023, or they're going to run into some serious funding issues. And a lot of that seems to be the case with CIG. Well, we're talking a little bit over what I'm going to talk about with Squadron 42 stuff, but that's the important detail. So if you're worried about Armor, I expect Armor is going to be in the game when it comes to Squadron. So the fact that they mentioned it tells me that they're already talking about it or planning it in terms of gameplay sessions. I wouldn't be surprised if it starts being implemented in the next year or so, possibly by the end of next year, but maybe not in Star Citizen until 2023. Do they even have PMs to run a team that big? They don't. That's why they're hiring. But that's the reason why they're building this. I'm imagining they're getting a lot of kickbacks. I don't think they'll probably end up paying zero in taxes to the UK government by that time, because they're investing so much in building a new studio. Like CIG is not stupid. They've been trying to find these, like, one of the reasons why they increased the size of the Frankfurt studio and the UK studio over, say, Austin and LA, is because both the UK and the EU governments were actively trying to entice developers and software developers and game developers to set up shop in their various countries. So yeah, it makes sense. Whereas, like, I'd imagine the Austin studio is going to grow too, because Austin is also a very friendly city for software development, and especially with Texas trying to attract as much business as humanly possible, they're not going to sit down and just let that go to waste. They'll find some way of making money. Hopefully they test new funding models before they get that many staff, like cosmetics. Well, here's the thing. The only way that they're going to have a 700-person studio is if they release a single-player game. If they release Squadron 42. There's no way that's the only way they'll make that money. And I know a lot of people are like, well, they've already sold all the pieces that they can. And I'm doing that because you're an idiot if you think that. You're a moron. You're dumber for thinking that. You've made us all dumber for you thinking that. because that's not the case. Star Citizen has barely even begun advertising, and with its staff alone, like with its cast alone for Squadron 42, people will buy the game to add to fucking Mark Hamill collections. So, like, the game itself is going to sell fairly well. I don't think it's going to be, GTA. But if it reaches a moderate level, like a Quantic Dream release, which is $100 to $150 million, that's not bad. I anticipated it'll probably be a little bit more because it's such a weird title. It's a type of a throwback title. It's got a huge, weird cast. It's independent. It's going to get a lot of buzz. This isn't accusatory. This is not meant as a slight against CIG, but the way that the industry works is you pay companies like PC Gamer and Kotaku to write basically fluff articles for about your game, not pay them for reviews. That's not really what happens, but you do heavily invest in advertising on their websites so that when the articles are written, the editors will probably step in and tell the writers that they have to be a little bit more charitable. That's not really, it's a shitty way of doing business, but that's the way the industry rolls right now. So I would expect stuff like that to end up. The redemption story for Squadron 42, CI Cloud Imperium's redemption story, that kind of thing. They'll do that. So I expect the marketing alone will drive some sales. That's all of journalism, not linked to gaming. It's more the parasitic nature of games journalism is much more obvious than compared to normal journalism. Normal journalism, you can sell ad space to, weird pillow people, and you're fine. But with games journalism, gamers don't give a fuck about much other than gaming, because gamers are weird as a demographic. Because typically the gamer demographic is between 18 and 35, males who are single, who are low to medium income, may live with their parents. They tend to have a very specific philosophical point of view. There's not really one political kind of demographic you hit, but they tend to lean towards the center, center right. Not entirely, especially since the demographics have changed with more women getting into gaming and so on and so forth. But as a result, there's like 7 products that you can sell. That's why, like, in marketing, that demographic is seen as a golden demographic, because it's there's people who have a lot of money to burn, and often not a lot of shit to spend on. These are people who don't tend to have a lot of families yet. They tend to have like decent jobs that make enough money, but don't really have a lot to do. And if they're not out partying and fucking, then they're playing video games or doing other sorts of interesting or weird hobbies. Or investing in JPEGs that run through algorithms, or talking about tendies and going to the moon. This kind of interesting demographic that's difficult to sell to. So video games are often seen as an avenue for it, but as a result, a gaming journalistic site is not going to have a lot of marketing opportunities outside of like gamer, ultimate big G gamer move, bro, kind of weird cringe stuff. So anyways, it's a weird kind of off topic tangent, but that's a long way of saying that if I expect Star Citizen or Squadron 42 to have armor, and that means that armor has to be within the next, and Squadron 42 is likely going to be in the next 2 years, come hell or high water. And as a result, I expect armor to be in the next year or two. Maybe not in Star Citizen yet, but how you do fellow kids stuff. Basically not Star Citizen players. Yeah, the thing is that Squadron 42 is not going to sell exclusively well to the current Squadron and Star Citizen player base. Star Citizen doesn't really sell to like its current audience is not the gamer demographic, which means that it's got a lot of room to move because all it has to do is find a way to sell itself to the MMO crowd who, you know, eat, drink, shit, and piss games, who will eat games and burn them to really make that work. Paladin, thank you so much for that 2 months. Here's to Redeemers getting blown up now. There's going to be a lot of Ares pirates looking for stuff to do. Cargo ships beware. Oh. Thank you, DFX, for that 59 months as well of subscription. Half the chat feels extremely seen. Paladin, thanks for gifting that sub to Mr. Mount Stunrad. Tier 2 sub. Hype Train on Twitch. Thank you. No judgment on the definition of gamers for that. It's not meant as a gamer as a judgment call, because each demographic has its own weird eccentricities in terms of how you sell them, how you sell to them. And I always find it fascinating to kind of find these groups and figure out what does these groups like and what do they dislike, and how do you, get to market a product which is designed to appeal to that group. That's what I liked about marketing. Is it's kind of like a puzzle, kind of like why I like history. It's finding the right piece to fit into the right slot. And if you're good enough, you know how to you can figure that out, and then let the advertising people do their job, which is to make it work. And when everything comes together, you create fucking culture, which is insane. So that's the weird, cool power high that you can get being a marketer. But most of the time, it's boring and stupid. You remember the cool shit. You don't remember the bad shit. CIG's been selling a bunch of their gameplay tech for a while. Yeah, I mean, I think there's some elements of Star Citizen that will end up, I just think CIG will never say this since they got sued, but I wouldn't be surprised if some part of their end game goal is their own engine. I don't think it's intentional. I don't think it's one of the, or I don't think it's something that's malicious. I think, if Lumberyard were to fold, like people have been saying it will, in the next couple of years, I wouldn't be surprised if CIG bought the license. They just bought the engine, and then started to, spruce it up and become essentially Crytek 2.0, where they're taking this engine and doing it and putting out tools and stuff like that to try to sell it to people, make it a little bit more streamlined, update it for the 21st century, put it up there with the other major engines, to kind of as a kind of a, here, use this engine, but tailor it towards large scale games with lots of people and those sorts of environments. I'm not saying CIG is trying to, or hoping that Lumberyard fails, but I wouldn't think that that's out of the cards for CIG, because that would be probably not a bad move on their part. CIG could be own New World. No, they wouldn't own New World. Oh no, New World is still owned by Microsoft by Amazon. It's just that the engine would be slightly different. That's only that basically if New World collapsed or failed, then that's what would happen. But that's also probably not going to happen either. So doubtful. CIG was literally formed as a framework around which to build Squadron 42 and Star Citizen. What do you mean? After Squadron 42, do you think CIG will start making Star Citizen games, non-Star Citizen games? No, but I do think that they'll definitely make Star Citizen single player experiences. They have been very upfront about that. They want to make other Squadron 42 games, obviously, and then, I wouldn't be surprised if they made Star Citizen Privateer, which is just, Star Citizen, the single player experience with more of a narrative story. I wouldn't be surprised if they made pirate versions of the game. I wouldn't be surprised if they did spin-offs of various locations like, Life in Area 18 or a mech-based game. They've got Sean Tracy, for fuck's sakes. If they don't make a goddamn mech game, Sean Tracy's going to leave and make himself Mech Commander. Like remake Mech Commander because it's fucking Sean Tracy. Star Citizen Return to Pyro, yeah. Mr. Stunner, why are you gifting so many subs? Thank you for the money, but holy shit. All right, so this is the point in the thing where I talk about it's Veterans Day right now from the time of recording, and this entire week I've been doing the 7 Days of Valor with a few other people in the Star Citizen community trying to raise money for veterans through a company called StackUp, a group called StackUp. They are a fundraising group that is dedicated to helping veterans and active duty service personnel in NATO, Australia, and New Zealand with the power of video games. They're all gamers. They want to do things like help people who are overseas, be able to relax a little bit while in deployment. Often these are kids who are there to get money for college. And, it's proven that stress can cause PTSD, obviously, and things like video games can help relieve stress. So it makes sense. Give some normalcy to crazy worlds. And they also help veterans who are suffering from PTSD. They help or physical injuries, helping people, getting them games or getting them equipment so that they can play, even though they've maybe, handicapped. They run an entire anti-suicide they do a suicide prevention campaign called Stop, where they have actual counselors that anyone can use, but it's designed to help veterans. They run it through Discord and other services like that to help just kind of make it easy and accessible. So it's a good charity. I've been helping them out for a long time. This is something we've been doing for the last 3 years or so. So ! StackUp to help raise money. We've raised about $100-something so far. So, and I'll put that link in the description for those of you watching this on YouTube, and I'll put this in the chat as well. So yeah, there we go. Star Citizen multi-crew horror sci-fi. I could see that too. That'd be interesting. I could see a mini game of Star Citizen similar to Alien, where there's one player plays an alien creature while everyone else is trying to fix a ship and get it out and this sort of thing. Whatever. Given the work on tax emissions, I'd say the Genesis thing nebulously being worked on somewhere. Yeah, I think it's been mentioned a couple times by Jared. I want as many people possible to also be enthralled by the dulcet tones of wisdom of Star Citizen lore, my good sir. Oh, thank you, my man. I'm trying to do a little bit more. Starliner next community ship meme. It won't be, but it'll be. You'll hear it because Jared loves that ship, so you'll hear Jared talk about it because it was the ship that he helped launch. The Microtech clouds look awesome. I've seen the pictures of them, but I haven't seen them in game. I'm sure they look great. I haven't had time to. I'll definitely look at them soon, though. Don't you hate it when there's suddenly a pissed off Boreal stalker stuffed into the corridors of a reclaimer? Yeah, that'd be funny. Spin off the Gears of War as a full game pushed to a PS5. I'm hoping we'll get real hauling missions soon, like the heavy-duty, long travel box missions. They need to have places to go for long haul. They need Pyro and Nyx and other places to be able to do long haul. But I agree, variable cargo missions would be a nice idea. Let's see. I didn't see the... see this. Someone responded, admit it, you like the Redeemer is the name, and $25. No, I'm not going to admit I like the Redeemer. I hate the Redeemer. But thank you for that $25. We're currently up to $134. Our goal is $250. At $250, I will be giving away... what do I have to give away? Probably the Overlord Dust Storm armor set. And then if we reach $500, I'll give away a Avenger Titan LTI with a skin attached to it. And if we reach $1,000, I'm giving away a Talon. So we got some stuff for that. Hey, Justin, how you doing, buddy? I think it's time to finally get involved now that the full wipes happened. Do it, Justin. I will also tell you that the game's buggy. It's fucking awful at times. Not bad, but, you know. It's better than I thought it was going to be. Titan's the greatest ship anyway. Stairs kill. Yeah, there's still stuff like that's weird. I really do like the Ares fighters, but also because the cannons are sick when they attack. Yeah. I'm not going to admit anything, Corbin. Now I got to go suffer through space truckers again. Yeah, I'm poking the game a bit, but kind of waiting for 3.15.1 to iron out a few more issues, bugs. I think 3.16 is going to be a big one. It's buggy, sure, but I got about 4 hours in without a crash, so I'm happy about that. Yeah, I think the other thing to remember is that Star Citizen has this weird issue with launch bugs, where things happen because everyone piles in, and servers act weird. Like if you're the first person into a server, into a game, for the patch, it usually is fine for the first 4 to 6 hours, maybe at 8 max, and then after the 8 hours. The first, 2 days after a patch releases, bugs show up everywhere that you haven't experienced for months. And then, a week later, they're gone. And often, it's not because CIG did any patching, though they may have been stuff done patching in the background, but, they don't talk about it. But, there's usually no information. They just don't show up again. And then they'll show up again here and there throughout the rest of the patch. But they're like the patch, the beginning of the patch when everyone's playing, everyone has these, it's like, my head's missing. I'm T-posing. I'm naked. My friend, I can't see my friend. My armor's not connecting properly. My ship's gone. All of these problems that disappear within a week. I have no fucking idea why. Maybe because there's so many people who jump into a new patch at the very beginning, so it gets overloaded. And then you see those issues pop up again when you have peak hours, so people popping in for weekends or for events. But I don't know. Paul, I'm surprised you're not in the game playing with the Redeemer. Get out, Windlord. Out. Fell through the floor getting dressed in the emergency room. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Bobby, I can almost guarantee you that in a week, if you played on a Wednesday, you probably won't have that problem again. It's weird that it happens at peak hours for some reason. But usually it breaks the fucking game. Usually it's just unplayable nonsense. But it doesn't seem to be. It seems to be more just minor inconveniences for this patch, which is better than I thought it was going to be. More lore. Thank you, Vulcan Cannon, for that Prime sub for 26 months. A Soulflare. The areas were so incredibly quick, top fueled dragster on cocaine. I mean, it's designed to be stuff like that, so. They stop playing because they're bugs, but never submit it in an ISC. I see. Yeah, and then they complain about it. Yeah, I get that. Only hates Redeemer because their ship lost. I mean, that's what I am. I hate the Redeemer because the ship that I wanted to win lost. But I also think that it's not thematic for Star Citizen. It doesn't make sense as a Aegis ship. Its design is just weird. Like it just doesn't. The ship itself feels much more like a ship that would be at home in a arcade shooter than in a game like Star Citizen that's trying to at least have the aura of like authentic like space travel. Where you have like space planes or box ships, where you either have ships that are designed as like fighter planes that could possibly work in atmosphere, but also in space, and then also ships like the Aurora, which are just boxes, which would make sense in space. I'm not saying Star Citizen is truly accurate, because Star Citizen is about space, World War II space dogfighting, which makes no sense in actual space combat. But there's at least an aura of like matching expectations of what the future would look like, and the Redeemer looks like it came out of a manga. No shade. I like me some Japanese retrofuturism. That's fucking amazing at times, especially when he gets crazy the mangakas get crazy with their designs. But it's like putting taking the Starship Enterprise and throwing it into Star Trek into Star Wars. Yeah, but putting it into Star Wars. It just like the aesthetic is like, what the fuck is this doing here? It doesn't make any goddamn sense. It looks like a Vanguard with no wings. I mean, if a Vanguard was like grossly overweight and had back like boils, if a Vanguard turned into a ship from got infected by a Nurgle plague from 40K, maybe. So JJ Trek, not even. At least JJ Trek was like kept things thematically. It would be like if JJ Trek just didn't care and turned the Star Trek Enterprise into the fucking Millennium Falcon, like actually for real. Putting aside your hatred of it, since it's been finished to the usual CIG standard, do you see the Redeemer returning to its place in Squadron 42? No, because so here's what happened. They were going to use the Redeemer in Squadron 42. It wasn't going to be ready in time, so they created the Vanguard Hoplite. And then they realized that they still had more time, and they wanted to have something more bespoke, so they created the Valkyrie. The Valkyrie has replaced, even in the cutscenes, it's replaced both the Vanguard and the Redeemer. So no, I don't think it's going to return to its place as what it was going to be in Squadron 42. I do think that the Redeemer may end up in Squadron, but it kind of like as a support asset, like a gunship that you can help call in, or you have to like defend or something like that for ground-based targets. Kind of like an attack helicopter in an Ace Combat game, where it's there to support your other assets that you're supposed to protect, but you don't really interact with it. It's kind of a background piece. Is this only coming up because we finally have the ship after 6 years? What? What's coming up? I dislike the Redeemer enough to not call for support. Listen, It's if it's between me getting overrun by hellish space bugs and dying a gruesome death, or calling in a redeemer for air support, then I'm just gonna die, I guess. Oh no, I've always hated the redeemer. Like the right now, people are more focused on the redeemer hate because it's about to come out. But like 3 years ago, I made myself very clear what I don't like the redeemer. And as the channel grew and as more of the audience kind of grew, people began to realize that I don't like the redeemer. I hate you, Fairasalt. And no, CIG is making a big huff and puff about some CIG employees. I'm not going to say the names because they're very public on Twitter about this. Are joking that they should give me the Redeemer and make it irredeemable, or yes, irredeemable. Ha, good joke. No, make it unmeltable and ungiftable. Just lock it to my account. They still haven't done it. So, you know, I'm glad they're just joking. Because that would be fuck you, CIG. That would be that kind of moment. And if it didn't happen that some fucking mod in chat decided to make that joke. Ha ha ha, fair assault, not funny. Do I think Doasim will influence Squadron 42? The fuck is Doasim? DOASM? Oh, Death of a Spaceman. Oh, I've never really seen that abbreviation before. Yeah, I mean, I think it will. I think it'll definitely influence the gameplay. All Chris Roberts games have something similar to that, where like you could eject, and if you eject, you fail the mission, but you can continue going. But if you die, it's game over. You got to go start from the last stuff. Fuck you, Jake. Hate you. Nothing to stop CIG from mining the other greatest starships finalists for ideas. They have, though. I think the next great starship contest, pretty much all of the top 4 have been turned into their own ships, because you've got the Scimitar. Everyone drives me crazy because I say Scimitar, and they're like, "What the fuck's a Scimitar?" And then look it up and says, "Oh, it's Scimitar." Don't call it, it's not Scimitar, it's Scimitar. And it's like, well, to be fair, C's are hard in German. You don't say, there's not really a soft C as far as I can tell in German. It's an English, or not even English concept. It's taken from, like, Latin has similar rules. So when you look at Scimitar, it's not Scimitar, it's Scimitar. And the designing team who did it, which was not Shimmy Pan, but they created this hammerhead-like gunship, and they called it, and they made it huge, and they called it the Scimitar. And nothing about Germany is soft. Oh. So, I was going to make a bad joke, but Cam may be watching, and I don't want to get hit. And that design of the Scimitar is essentially the hammerhead. I mean, it's not the hammerhead, because I know the Hammered Head was created separately in its own, but like the design philosophy, the ideas are obviously cribbing a little bit off of that. Like they took that and like, hey, it's a cool idea, let's take that, you know. And if it's completely independent, they came from the same kind of independent mindset sort of thing. And then if you actually look at, let me pull them up real quickly so I can show you the Drake Brutus. Okay, here we go. Okay, we've got that, and then we've got this. Okay, so this is the Drake. This is the Drake Brutus. This is what the Team Shimmy Pan came up with. I liked it. I loved it. I want some more of it. It's very Drake. It fits in the aesthetic, and it works as kind of a gunship, right? Well, look at these. The wings are a little bit, with the two big engines, very, very Cutlass-like. It's very similar to the old Cutlass, and it looks like. It had some very similar, but it's long. It's about the same size as a Cutlass. Compare these two. Look at that. It's almost the exact same design philosophy. It's just they shrunk down the Buccaneer. The only one that I don't know is the boom slang. I don't know what the boom slang ended up, if it had anything to do. But I definitely think that the Silverback, which is one of the other contestants, ended up heavily influencing the Rylan. The Rylan. Very similar. Yeah, see what I mean? Beefy Buccaneer. That's what it is. That's why I want it. That looks cool as fuck. That! You could have had that instead of the Redeemer. Ah! Fuck! Fuck you. It's so much cooler. I mean, like here. They're practically the same front. Too close to the Cutlass? That was its point, was to look a little bit more close to the Cutlass. The Redeemer looks like dog shit. Yeah, Shimmy Pan made a good ship, but I thank God that the team that made reference the panty parties, whose icon had panties, was not rewarded with top place. I mean, it's... I can understand why people were upset with that. I think it was probably not the best move, but we're also talking about like the gaming community, and I respected that a little bit. I respected that take a little bit. What the fuck is this? Why did I lose all the chat? Anywho, welcome y'all again. We're going to go through the little section. So if you're watching this and you've already watched the little preview section that I've done on YouTube, if it's up there, because like I've done a couple of these where I didn't put them out there because I didn't think they were good enough. But we're going to talk a little bit about Squadron 42. But first that, we're going to talk about server mesh and Q&A, because there's been some misunderstandings of what's going on. So I want to kind of go through the server mesh and Q&A, kind of pull out what they're talking about to make it a little bit more user friendly. And I often joke that Star Citizen community are illiterate, and it's a joke because I've always said that Star Citizens hate reading. They don't like reading because they like pictures. And I can tell you that because every time there's like some information that's buried deep in a Q&A or in a monthly report, some people like myself and Tomato will say, hey, this is really cool. And no one gives a shit. But the second there's a fucking cool picture or some video, people are like, oh, give me that shit. Oh, yeah. Like Reddit explodes with it. People make videos on it. And it's like, it could be nothing. It could be almost nothing. And people will lose their mind over it. I know that y'all don't read. So I have to read for you. Yeah, people are freaking out that there's been a wipe as if there hadn't been written in several places for the last month. Come to Papa Shelley's story time hour. Okay, so let me close all of these. Okay, pull that up here. So, Jake, if you're still here, I'm going to use you as a reference. I'm sorry, not sorry. All right. So let me do the awkward pause and start. Hello and welcome to this. I called it asides, and someone said, "Don't call it asides. It's called a soliloquy or monologue or whatever." Welcome to this section of Office Hours where I talk about Star Citizen, either the latest news or information, my own little soapbox, sometimes just talking about lore, to get you to come join us live every Thursday at 9 p.m. EST. EST now, at 9 p.m. EST to watch us live, ask questions, hang out with the community, just be here and be awesome, because I'd love to see you here. But today we're going to talk about server meshing, because CIG released a large Q&A about server meshing, which has a lot of information in it. And I want to clear up a couple of misconceptions I've seen in some of the community members on Twitter and in Discord or in Reddit and lots of other places, because you may have to read between the lines a little bit with some of the stuff that CIG does. I will say that CIG is not... They're not as precise as they should be, given the nature of the community. And that's being as diplomatic as I wish to be about that. You may see up here that we're actually raising money. This entire week has been it's Veterans Day week, the Veterans Week, I guess, and Remembrance Day week. And we've always raised money for a charity called StackUp. StackUp is a group that helps veterans and active duty military personnel from NATO and Australia and New Zealand with video games. And they run their own suicide prevention hotline, which is aimed towards veterans, but it's designed for anybody, called Stop. They help get injured veterans to gaming events, get them new equipment so they can play, get them to communities so that they can feel more normal and kind of adjust back to civilian life. So I've been helping them out for the last couple of years. If you want to help out, there'll be a link to the donation down below if you want to help out. But we'll be raising this all this week. I'm being helped out by people like Buster the Destroyer and Captain Richard and a couple other members of the community. So come join us for that one. Anywho, let's get to the main event, which is this Q&A. We're going to kind of skim through it just so I can pull out some stuff for you. So, with this, they did a Q&A panel where they pulled people in, took questions from the community, and asked them. They asked on Spectrum, and they pulled some of this out and pulled it out here. So the first one right here is, when will we see persistent streaming and server meshing in the PU? The answer is, our current aim is to release persistent streaming in the first version of the replication layer, ideally between Q1 and Q2 of next year, 2022. We'll then follow up with the first version of static mesh, barring any foreseen technical complications, between Q3 and Q4 of next year. Now, I've seen a couple people say, oh, well, unseen complications, I'm not expecting it until 2023 or 2024. And I get it. People are trying to, twice bitten, or once bitten, twice shy. So I get it. I understand it. But it feels more like CIG is bearing down on a lot of this. Again, I've covered this in previous episodes where CIG is not the same CIG that would say salvage in 3.1 and it's a joke, pretty much. Very different experience. But this is good because it means that we're getting persistent streaming, meaning full persistence, by middle of next year, which is a good thing. And this is the first hopeful date, very ambiguous date, for server meshing sometime between CitizenCon and the end of next year. So, for static mesh. Good. The answer to when question. They never ask answer a when question because someone's going to put it up on the promise board, be like, yep, CIG promised it by CitizenCon next year. When it doesn't happen, I'm going to run around and light fires because, I don't know, people don't like video games, I guess, who play this game. I don't know what the hell's going on. So that's first good news right off the bat. The next is talking about all of the road to server meshing and the game, basically. Object container streaming, entity authority transfer, replication layer and persistent streaming, and then static and dynamic meshes. I'm not going to go through this whole thing. If you followed the game, you kind of got most of this. If you didn't, please read the the Q&A. I'll put it down in the top linked comment down below for you to read it. Then we've got the next two big ones, and then I'll move on to the last little section. This one is, how do you plan on managing large ship, say a Javelin? Would that be its own dedicated resource with ships around it? Now, I'll read some sections of this, but the general gist of what they answer is that they could do that, but they don't want to rely on that. They don't want to make a hard stance that says if a Javelin is spawned, then it is its own server, because they want to be more flexible, because servers cost money, y'all. And if servers cost money to spin up and rent, then they want to try to reduce that overhead as much as possible. So if they can find a clever way of saying Javelin is only a server when this many people are on board, then they'll do that. But they'll also not force that to happen. But they can do that, and as the technology develops, they're going to keep looking into it and see if they can make it work. This was the big one. This is the one that a lot of people started gnashing their teeth and wailing, and all is lost. God has forsaken us. What have we done to deserve such cruelty and punishment? The game is over. Oh, it's all a scam. Oh, no. Oh, no. Calm down, people. Jesus. How many players will be able to see each other in one space? What's the maximum you're planning? So I'm going to read this whole thing because this requires context. This is a difficult question to answer, and the best answer we can give at the moment is that it depends. just like old people underwear. It's my audience, Paul. Don't say that, Paul. Assuming that the question is about the limit of how many players will be able to see each other from a client view, it's mainly dedicated to the game client, or it's mainly dictated by the game client. This is due to client-side simulations such as physics and game code, as well as rendering cost. Additionally, it also heavily depends on the scenario. 100 players in FPS combat are cheaper to simulate and render on a client than 100 players fighting in single-seater spaceships, firing missiles and lasers at each other. The graphics team is actively working on Vulkan, which will allow us to increase draw calls and should improve how many players/ships we can render in the same time, while the engine team is heavily focused on game code optimizations to increase the number of game objects we can simulate at once. We're aiming to increase our player count, and our expectations is that we will be able to support scenarios where 100 players can see each other at reasonable frame rates. Most people skipped the entire first part of that and just read, we're aiming to increase our player count, and our expectation is that that we will support 100 players where 100 players can see each other. That's all they saw. So let me continue. However, as we start scaling our shards to support higher player counts, the likelihood that every single player within a shard can go to the same physical location and see each other without performance issues will decrease. This is important. Notice that they said that every single player within a shard can go to the same physical location and see each other without performance issues will decrease. So that's important. This is where we will need to start implementing game mechanics that prevent these scenarios from happening too frequently. The absolute limit is hard to predict until some of the new technology comes online and we can start to measure out performance. Now, I'm going to pause for a moment and go here. Jake Bradley, who's in chat, Bad News Baron had some legitimate concerns about this, and both him and Tyler came on, both Jake and Tyler came on to explain this. Jake said, we're definitely targeting for far more than 100 players in a shard and or space. The numbers referenced in the Q&A is in regard to the initial release. We do plan to increase the further as we improve the tech and implement new features, i.e. Vulkan, which is essentially what they said. But I get it. Not everyone gets to read the whole thing. They just see the 100 players. We're aiming for 100 players and assume that's what it is. So the answer is they're shooting for 100 players at the beginning. Now, that could mean when they get server meshing in. It could mean when they get persistence in. It could mean when they get Vulkan in. Like, we could have a situation in Q2 where we're having 100 player servers instead of 50 player servers before we even see server meshing. Because at that point, the only thing essentially, and we'll talk about this in a moment, essentially at that point, every single server with just persistent streaming in it is essentially a tiny server connected to the main global hub. It's its own shard. And so we have thousands of shards that are running. This is where we'll need to start implementing game mechanics that prevent these scenarios from happening too frequently. The absolute limit is hard to predict until some of the new technology comes online and we can start measure out the performance. Okay, so yeah, going through that again. This is another big thing about the moon, about moons. If I make a base on the moon, will my base will be reflected in other shards that I'm not on? Essential answer for this one was yes, but you won't be able to interact with that server. So if someone is in a different shard, that base will show up in that shard. But if it shows up in that shard, they won't have access to your stuff. It'll be impossible to break in. It'll be basically an invincible base on other shards. So they have to be on the shard that you're in to be able to interact with anything. And this may change, as they said. Essentially they don't have a 100% working answer for that because they have to wait for more stuff to come in. But the idea is Planetech team plans to implement base building with server shards in mind. Claiming your land for base will claim this land on all shards. And we will replicate your base to all shards. Because it's important to remember that the goal is still a global instance, one single shard for the entire game. But they don't know if they can get that in with the current tech. Is the true end goal for one single shard for all players? This is our ambition. However, getting a definite answer is not possible at this point. It's not possible at this point. So as I said, it's not possible to do a single shard. It's just not physically possible. However, they will start with many small shards per region and slowly reduce the number of shards. The first major goal will be to reduce this to only needing one shard per region, which means all of North America, all of EU, and all of Australia. Or, all AUS, NA, and EU are their own individual shards with all players from NA, EU, and AUS in them. They also say that it's not going to be as simple as that, but the idea is they have those 3 major shards. Star Citizen, I think they pulled out some statistics at one point. CIG said that Star Citizen has something like 10,000 active players. So if we can assume that a third of them are from the US, that's still like 3,000 people per shard. That's right now, not in the future when we're probably going to have higher numbers of players. So that's important to point out, was that if you remember back up here, they said specifically the likelihood that every single player within a shard can go to the same physical location and see each other without performance issues will decrease with a shard. So their goal is to have all of North America in a shard. I don't know about you, but I think there's more than 100 people in North America who play Star Citizen. Context is key. And as always, as has been said, 100 is the goal, is the initial goal, not the final goal. To get there, our plan is to gradually increase these player shards to continually improve the backend and client to support more and more players. It's not just technology that changes that are required to set this goal. New game design and new game mechanics are needed too. Without mechanics to prevent every single player from going to the same location, a large mega shard will be hard to achieve, especially on the client. For example, there could be a mechanic to temporarily close jump points to crowded locations or create new layers for certain locations. So either you can't go into this location because it can't support the number of players that are in that system, or you create a multiverse where the one person who's won over the limit of that location, they just kind of spin up a new server, and then that person goes into that server, and we'll never see anybody in the other servers, but they're still on the same shard effectively. Yeah, sorry, Earth is full. Please try again later. Well, the backend is designed to scale horizontally. The game client runs on one single machine and is limited to a definite number of CPU, GPU cores, as well as memory. So everything is essentially blocked by the client side, is what they're saying. Once we overcome these hurdles and accomplish 1 mega shard per region, we will be able to take on the final boss, merging regional shards into one global mega shard. This comes with its own set of issues, as locality plays a big role in player experiences. For example, latency between services within the same data center is much lower than latency between services that are hosted in 2 regionally separated data centers. And while we designed the backend to support one global shard, it is an operational challenge to deploy in the backend in a way that doesn't favor one group of players over another. This is pretty simple. Will the economy of the universe be independent of every single shard joined? Every single thing in the universe is going to backend us together. This is another interesting point right here. What will prevent large groups of blues and large group of reds ending up in echo chamber shards? Social dynamics would imply large concentrations of people that will have friends and be in orgs that are the same interests. Will there be a solution that will ensure proper mixing of good and bad in between? Essentially, what they're saying here is that the matchmaking system is going to sort people based off of many different factors. They talked about this at the CitizenCon panel. And they could essentially make it so that no one is ever going to be in the same shard as a bunch of people who never participate in PvP will likely never encounter somebody who is PvPing, while somebody who is always participates in PvP will more likely encounter other PvPers because they can filter that through the matchmaking system. But I'll read some of these parts. The new matchmaking system is currently in development alongside server meshing, allows us to match players to shards based on multiple input parameters. Those are used to match players into shards with their friends or where they left most of their items in the open world. However, it also allows us to use more advanced parameters, such as reputation and other hidden player stats that we track. This will allow us to try to ensure that every shard has a semi-diverse collection of individuals. For example, we could make sure that we don't inadvertently load a shard up with only lawful players, which might not be very fun if the part of what they want to do is hunt criminal players. So it's going to be a little bit more dynamic. They don't want to do Care Bears and psychopaths on their own little islands. They want to kind of mix them in a little bit, but they could do that if they wanted to. So that's essentially what we would have if we were going to, like, the old PvP slider concept is similar to that. All right. So, will your character and ship always be in game if you've left? If you logged out from your ship in bed, will my ship still be there, meaning that people could try to break in and destroy my ship? When an entity is unstowed in a shard, it physically exists in the shard. It exists permanently within that shard until player stows the entity into an inventory. This could be done by picking up a gun and placing it into your backpack, or by landing a ship on a landing pad, which will stow the ship into a specific landing pad inventory. Once the entity is within an inventory, it's stored in the global database and can be unstowed into any shard. This allows players to move items between shards. We also plan for a mechanic called Hero Item Stow/Unstow. This will take any player-owned hero items and automatically stow them into a player-specific shard transition inventory. The automatic stow will usually happen when no other players are around and the entity is streamed out. Items in this shard transition inventory will follow a player automatically, so when a player logs into a different shard, we will take entities and unstow them back into the new shard at the position where they left them. When you land your ship on the moon and log out, the ship will stream out and automatically be stowed into no other players are around at that moment. Now, when you log into a different shard, your ship will be unstowed into the new shard. If for some reason the ship stayed in the old shard longer than got destroyed while you were logged out, you may wake up in a med bed. So there is going to be an automatic stow of your ship. If nobody else is around you, it will stream out after a certain amount of time. But if you want to try to confirm that you're going to save your ship, you need to be in a port or a landing zone where you can land and log out, and it will be brought into the replication layer, into the inventory layer, the inventory system. So, this basically just says that while server meshing will allow us to start to scale up numbers of players who can play together in Star Citizen, also enabled to start adding new content experiences. Right now we're focused on adding basically any new Star systems, and they're adding more stuff. We kind of already get that. A lot of stuff needs to be done, needs to wait until server meshing is done so that they can build around it. So performance improvement. They say don't plan on performance improvements just because of server meshing. It's going to be a lot more tied to things like Vulkan and other implementations of improvements. This is kind of the same kind of thing that they're planning on. Shards, essentially, shards will start as, once they have the server streaming in, when they have the persistent streaming in, shards will start to work like they will in the future. But instead of having a meshed shard, you just have a shard, which has one server in it. And hopefully, if that server crashes, you'll have some sort of log out, but you log back in and everything is saved. Essentially, where you last were will be where you were. But they still have got a lot of things to do. You can't shoot bullets through shards. You can shoot missiles through meshes. But it depends. If it's already streamed in, because streaming matters. They talked about this as well. We're so up there. And okay, if I live in Eastern Europe, after launching server meshing, will I be able to play with my friends from the USA? We do not plan to limit what shard and region a player can choose, which is what I've said a long time in the past. You're not locked to a shard. The shard is just a collection of meshed servers. I'm going to kind of go through, not going to go through all of this because I suggest y'all, because I said I wasn't going to, But go through this yourself, read it for yourself. Please read it. I know it's very easy to just kind of pick and choose little bits and then kind of get super excited or super angry at things. But as we've gone through and read through some of this, I feel like they did a very good job of explaining what they were planning on doing in a more player-centric location. Whereas what they did at CitizenCon was much more of a focus on the technical side of things. This feels much more of a, well, what does it mean for players? So it's a very good resource if you're worried about anything about server meshing. The big takeaways are 100 players at first, scaling up to shards that are the entirety of a region, North America, Europe, and Australia. So for instance, sorry, she knows. live content. You can still play with your friends, even if they're not in your shard. You can match with them pretty easily. Your stuff is not gonna get stowed unless there's nobody around you. Bases will be global instead of just sharded. So almost everything that we had questions for, that we were worried about with gameplay, was answered in this document. So hopefully that'll alleviate some concerns. Again, thank you for watching. Please do donate to StackUp if you get a chance to. Love to have you subscribe here on YouTube if you're watching this on YouTube. Hit the like button because it helps the spread the word of what we're doing here. Subscribe and hit the little bell icon for all notifications of when I upload these things, when I go live on YouTube, and join us on Twitch at twitch.tv/theastropub for live content Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Mostly Star Citizen, but sometimes some other things. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black. I'm still here. Oh no, you sharded too early. Astropub, how will I ever crew my Pegasus with only 100 players? Jordan, did you not listen to anything I just fucking said? Oh, Craiglin's here to increase the threat. Fuck the Redeemer. Holy Daka? Daka. Blessed be Gork and Mork, for he has brought us Daka. I hate the Redeemer. I mean, we do have an orc emote. Man, it still leaves with such questions like, how are they going to sync servers across different regions, especially with things like bases and such? Like, things need to be close to real time. If you're in a different shard, so if there are 7 shards and you're in shard A and your base is in shard A, shards B through 7. I'm not on the clock. I'm not going to do that whole thing. If you're in shard 1 and there are 7 shards, shards 2 through 7 will see the base but not be able to do anything to that base. They have to be on shard 1 to be able to interact with the base. That's how that works. What were my thoughts on the CIG video that released today about the flight mechanics and such? I mean, it sounds pretty much on brand for what CIG's been saying, where they've been like, we want to make the game as authentic as possible, but we also want to make it fun. So I'm glad that they're doing things like reading some classic dogfighting manuals and rules and stuff like that. So, what kind of math is this? Algebra. So the Redeemer, did you do the video about it yet? I haven't because they haven't released any lore on it. I'm hoping they'll release some lore on it with the next jump point, but we'll see. So basically, during an org v org battle or something, the team with more people in a given shard will basically have a big advantage. I mean, yeah, people who have more people will always have a big advantage, but they have to be on the same shard as their org mates, which has to be on the same shard as the base. Otherwise, you can't do anything. Is female hair broken in life, or am I crazy? It's broken. It's always been broken. Reaver lore, guns go pew pew. If there are 7 shards and you use shard B, but shards CIS is about 30k. I'm happy about the explanation they gave. I had concerns about server meshing being too ambitious, but I had the same concerns about saying this game even existing. So yeah, it's Star Citizen's CIG's ambitions to create what they're going to be doing with Star Citizen is both not new and unique, because every time a game is created, there is some aspects of game creation which is kind of common through most games, and then there is new things that have to be built just for that game, and netcode is one of those things. So anything that has to do with network connectivity and players working with another has to be almost always built from scratch. Anything that's used just the basic thing that, say, like a plug-and-play software uses will probably only work to the scale that network was created for. So, as initially developed for the concept drawing done by designer Paul Shelley, his favorite bar, the Astro Boat. There's some Redeemer lore for you. No. A plus 7 equals fish. Hey, that sounds like algebra to me. Astro, that sounds like calculus to me. Astro, did you think, well, we'd get more systems that haven't been announced after Pyro and Nyx in short order? Yeah, I think so. I mean, CIG has been not subtle that the issue with other systems has nothing to do with them building systems. It has everything to do with them with server meshing. Pretty much everything is writing on server meshing working, and they're getting it close to working. They just need to make it work properly. So yeah, so if you wanted to save a base from enemy stuff on your own shard, max level so enemy can't attack your base then. For a time, yeah. And remember that CIG's goal is to increase shard levels so that you have regional shards. And they want to make it so that essentially everyone in a shard could be in one place at one time. There's going to be some elements that they're going to have to fuck with, to make that work. But I wouldn't be surprised if CIG did a jump point destabilization, where if you try to go to an area that's being in active conflict where 2 massive orgs are slugging it out, you can't go to that system because the jump points are closed. And the jump points being closed is used as, it's like, well, what does that make sense? It's like, well, there could be destabilization in the jump points. So like a warp storm in 40K or what do they call them in Star Trek? A ionic plasma storm, or whatever they call it in Star Trek, like that, like a kind of a phenomena that causes destabilization. Because in lore, we do know that jump points can collapse, and they are not always stable. So it would be an easy way of getting it done. So people have to just kind of mad pile into an area if they want to try to fight stuff. Will the shards talk to each other regarding resources and high level game state, possibly to have each system be a shard? We don't know. That one we don't know. I think their idea is that a shard itself is the universe, and each system is its own connected set of meshes. But they have to save a lot of data onto the shard itself. So the limit right now is how much you can put on a shard before it collapses under its own weight. Like a lightning storm in space, yeah. So will Pirate be a separate shard? Not this that I understand, no. Pyro is going to be its own instance in the same, like its own meshed web of servers, but it'll be a different server, not a different shard. So you might have a shard that, you know, shard 11525, which will have Stanton and Pyro, but it'll only have Stanton and Pyro as two separate servers. Static servers. Or there are 7 static servers in Stanton and 5 static servers in Pyro, but they're all part of you know, shard 11254. That's when you have reinforcement logged in system. Logofsky and old Eve's online strategy. So multiverse theory. Jump gates are regulated by the UE anyways. They could just say they're closed to lockdown and infighting because of that. That would make me. Yeah, it makes sense as well. But not all jump points are regulated by the UE, especially in frontiers areas. It could just be that your IFCS system refuses to let you jump because you'll die. Astro, do you think we'll get a lot more systems that haven't been announced? Oh, yeah, in short order. Yes. Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't be surprised if we start hearing them working on Castra in the next couple of months. Or they're definitely going to get, you know, Odin when Squadron 42 comes out, but I don't think we'll get Odin until Squadron 42 comes out. We'll get things like Magnus probably. I wouldn't be surprised if we got the home of the Murray Cup, Farasalt's favorite place. Why am I blanking on the name? It's where Green is. It's got a bunch of other fancy locations. Ellis, I think. The Ellis system. Or even Nexus. Nexus isn't too far away. Is one jump away from Ellis as well. So it's only... So Nexus, which is a pirate haven, or active conflict zone. it's not a nice place to be. But it's technically UEE controlled. Nexus is only 2 jumps away from Stanton. So 110 solar systems done when it's all said and done. I think something like that. Yeah. Okay, how do you liking the new patch? I've liked it in PTU. I haven't played it since it came out of PTU, but I've been hearing good things about it. So multiverse theory, gotcha. Not really. Having your base invulnerable to shards when you're not on sounds like it solves the main thing I was apprehensive about rather than having a base. Offline raiding. I mean, you can still get offline raided. It's just that they have to be on your shard. Then again, as CIG has said, their goal is to have regional shards. So 3. Like at first you may have hundreds, millions of shards, but they're going to be collecting the shards into smaller and smaller shards until they can eventually get 3 regional shards. That could take a year. It could take 4 years. It could take forever. We don't know. CIG doesn't know either until they've developed the technology out there. But the plan is to have those shards as regional shards. They're fairly certain they can get the regional shards in. They know they can get the regional shards in, put it that way, with the right tech. They don't know right now if they can do the mega shard because of lots of other issues. So it's important to remember that by the time we get base building, we may have mega shards. We may have all of North America in a shard. So you have a 1 in 3 chance that you can actually access a base if you find it. I didn't see, where's Breakbox's stuff? I don't see Breakbox's information. Why is Twitch doing this recently? It's just not letting me see people. What was Breakbox asking? Hey, Switchtorian. Thank you so much for that Twitch Prime. There you are. When is the base database wipe? When is the database wipe? It's going to be in 3.15. They'll have wiped in 3.15. They don't have another database wipe until, my guess is until Quanta is fully in, and they've kind of reset the economy. But it won't be a full database wipe. They'll probably just wipe your money. Yeah, that blew my mind. How was the church today? I don't know. I have joked that I should start calling this the Astropub congregation, so I can write myself as get a tax write-off as a religion. I hope they have like 20 systems in place before base building. I don't like the problem about base building is a serious mechanic that's going to require a lot of effort and time to put in. Just from like, you'll need things like ground deformation. You'll need entire mechanics about placing down structures, how you do that, how you build the structures. How do you produce materials? All of these questions haven't been answered yet. So they'll definitely have to go back and, nail that out. It's very different from what we have so far in Star Citizen and what's planned so far in Star Citizen. Like base building is one of those things I would almost guess is going to be around the same time as exploration. Like gets fleshed out because it requires refining to work. It requires repair to work, salvage to work. It requires a whole different, terrain stuff for them to work. It's going to require like multiple professions to make functions. So yeah. Yeah, you need the Pioneer, obviously, but the Pioneer it's not just make Pioneer because they can make ships. The problem isn't make Pioneer. It's make Pioneer do what it's supposed to do, which is a lot of things that are unique to the Pioneer right now, which need to be their own things separate from the Pioneer as well. Thanks for hanging out there, Lit. I've been on break since 2017, 2018, planning to come back in 3.15. So yeah, they wiped in 3.15. But the last time they wiped before that was 18 months. It was like the end of 2019. So we had a long stretch. If you've been away for a while, it's very different. The game is very different. 3.15 is even more different than Star Citizen's ever been before. Pastor Paul. Terrain deformation. So if you're going to build a base, you're going to have to be able to place down that base. And if it's not perfectly smooth, you could either make it so that the base contours to the terrain, or it essentially flattens out a region of the terrain so you can place a base down. They already have tools for that, but that's designed for developer tools, and that's stuff that they have to make player side somehow. And it seems obvious, based off of what CIG wants to do, is they want to make the deformation player side. They've also been experimenting with making craters with grenades, if you remember that old video. Like, I am fairly fucking certain that the way that CIG wants to do this is they want to make bases destroyable. They want to make, like, terrain deformable. They want to make trees be able to fall down. Like, there's some crazy shit that they're doing that the Planet Tech team is doing, and no one's fucking talking about it. And when the Planet Tech team doesn't talk about something, they're doing something stupid or awesome or both. Like, I'm not sitting here saying all of this stuff is confirmed because they haven't, but we didn't know they were doing rivers until they just started showing us rivers. Question, once selling items / ships is in the game is implemented, what purpose would wiping only a UEC serve? Couldn't it be easily worked around converting liquid cash ships to weather the wipe. You could, but the thing is that the dynamic economy means that a ship may not be worth the value that you paid for it, and it may not be the same value that you think. So if you have a shield generator that costs 1,500 UEC or AUEC, when you get the new systems in that kind of the dynamic scaling economy, that 1,500 UEC shield generator could only be worth 100 UEC. So yeah, you have some. You could sell that to get some UEC, but it's not nearly the same value. And it also depends on where you are. So if you're selling that in like Terra, where they've got like stocks and stocks and stocks full of those things, they'll give you almost nothing, or even maybe not even buy it from you in the first place. But if you go to someplace like Pyro, where it could be a little bit more valuable, you might get some more value out of it as well. So because it's based off of what it does, what it's valued at, and what the materials inside are costing. So like they'll do one big wipe. They'll do one big mega wipe when they hit right before they hit beta. But that also tests the systems that they want to test in the first place. So if people are going to go like, oh, there's going to be a wipe of UEC, spend it all on ships and then sell it, that tests the systems that they want to fucking test in the first place. So why not? You know? The days of invincible trees of Microtech are numbered. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw them kind of changing at some point. For those of you who don't know, this is a little bit of Star Citizen lore. Did I see a bunch of people donate and I didn't see anything? Mr. Stunner, thank you for gifting that $51 to StackUp at 185. Thank you, my man. That's awesome. More than 11, yeah. Breaking news: fire is propagating across Microtech. More than 11. Speaking of ship values, I know ships go up in value, but have any of them ever gone down in value price? No, they don't go down in price, except for like specific sales. Water Planet Pioneer could build a platform above the water. That's another question as well. I haven't played much since 2.6. Woo! Woo! Oh, God. Oh, I haven't played much since 2.6. You might as well have just said, hey, I've never played Star Citizen before. What is this game? Oh, Lord. Okay. But 3.15 seems to be the biggest release I can remember. I don't play it on PTU. I was in the game for about 30 minutes and then encountered numerous glitches and bugs. Yes. You're going to encounter a lot of bugs. That's just how the game works. You watch videos and do streams? Okay. I thought you were about to say, like what's 3.15 like? It's like, it's a new game. Yeah, you're going to have issues. Like, I know a lot of people are like, oh, 3.15 seems like there's a wipe. I should probably jump in right now. It's like, yeah, you can, and I'm sure you'll have a decent time. But if you walk in thinking this game is a released perfect game, you're going to have a bad time. You're probably going to, most people who are, not experienced in Star Citizen will try 3.15 for the first time in the next couple of days, fall through the planet and go, fuck, this game sucks, and then just shut it off. Like, if you're the kind of person who are like, I do not handle bugs well, I want a game to be good. If you just shat on Cyberpunk 2077 when it first came out, then don't play Star Citizen. Just don't. Come back at beta. Yeah, that could be 4 or 5 years away, but that's reality. Like, bugs are going to happen. My point is that it feels worse than normal. No, it feels about right. Come back, start playing it Play it about December. If you play 3.15 on December 8th, I guarantee you it'll feel better. Pretty anecdotal, honestly. Everything's anecdotal in Star Citizen. I've seen people who've had nothing but smooth sailing, and then people who say I fell through the fucking through the fucking world. It's just better to assume that you're going to have bugs. But like Cyberpunk 2077 at launch had some horrendous fucking bugs, and Star Citizen, some of which are pretty much what Star Citizen has. So. Yeah, yeah. Whenever I played 2077, people are like, "This is horrible." I'm like, "I'm used to it." Yeah, I saw that. You sent me that Redeemer kill videos. Perfection. Bunker missions have killed me over 10 times in 24 hours. I have to complete yet one for a variety of reasons. I've lost my items and half my money. Yeah, don't do bunker missions unless you're with somebody else. Like, here's the hard lesson that people who didn't play the PTU are going to learn. Don't do bunker missions unless you have friends. I can barely do them solo, and I'm an experienced player who's played it in PTU, and I still lose. You're going to die. Bunker missions are not clear this out and you're done. You're either going to have bugs and have problems, or get absolutely destroyed because you didn't see a dude who popped out, who just kind of spawned around a corner. You didn't see them. Yeah, there's also fully released games by major AAA publishers, EA and Activision, that have bugs worse than 3.15. That's true as well, but I think Star Citizen's always going to be under a microscope because of the nature of its development. People are always going to hold Star Citizen to standards that are beyond AAA because people's expectations of Star Citizen are beyond AAA. I think CIG will manage to mitigate some of these issues, but you're always going to have some issues that happen in general. In New World, you don't swim, you walk under the water. Yes. I went to a bunker mission alone with no weapons twice and walked out with them completed in Avenger Titan full of guns. That's what happens when there's no weapon store on Microtech Station. Well, got a badass over here. Question. Thanks for answering my last one. Is Christopher Roberts really going to make me wait until I can buy that and beat Squadron 42 to fly an F8 Lightning? Yes. Yes. They won't release the fucking Idris until Squadron 42 is released. The Idris is done. We have it in Star Citizen. You just can't get inside it. They have interiors for the Idris. They have interiors for the Javelin. We've seen them. It's in Squadron 42, which we'll talk about here in a moment. But, yeah. You're not going to see them until they're in Squadron. I know no one knows the answer, but when do you think Squadron 42 will be released? 1 hour. One hour. Back in my day, we did bunker missions solo up elevators both ways in the snowstorm. Yeah. Pretty sure John said that the Idris for Squadron 42 and the Idris for the PU are not the same ships. And the ones that they do have aren't functional inside, but that's neither here or there. pretty sure that's wrong. I think the answer is this: the Idris they have in Star Citizen is not the final version of the Idris in terms of its stats, its what it can do, all those sorts of things, because the ship as functional in Star Citizen isn't ready yet. Squadron 42's ship is a little bit more scripted, but you can go to all the locations, hit all the buttons and dials, and do the things you need to. That's more what he was saying. Not that for some reason, the Star Citizen Idris and the Squadron 42 Idris are completely separate ships, because that doesn't fit at all into CIG's design philosophy. They're the same ships, and they'll function similarly in both games. It's just right now, the Idris we have in Star Citizen isn't the final version of the Idris. $30K drove me off along with the lack of free time, but with the $30K integration in place, I thought it would see how it's going. My top hat disappeared in the first 30 seconds. My skin was dark, lots of rendering glitches, and some weird performance issues like low frame rate, both CPU and GPU at 50%. Those are just lucky that when I logged for the IAE a couple of years. So, as I said before, Decno, I don't know if you're here when I said this, I guarantee you're going to have a bad time when 315 first launches. And you'll have a better time when 315.1 or 315.1 is finished with IAE in December 6th. Because what happens is this. This is my theory. New patch releases, everyone jumps in to see how good it is because they haven't played it in PTU or they have been away for a while and they want to play the game. So the game gets absolutely clusterfucked and the backend services can't handle it and everything goes bad. On top of that, when they do first launch stuff, there's usually some backend issues that arise because of the server load. And they have to go in and that they can't test in PTU because people wait until it goes live and they don't have the same kind of problem. So then they have to go back into the actual backend services, fix some issues, tweak it, and then it usually gets cleared up after the first couple of days of a patch going live. But with Star Citizen 315.1 being released in a week, I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think playing it in a couple of days will be okay, but... Squadron 42 is supposed to be done in 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21. So in about an hour, it'll be ready for release. Yep, that's right. 1 hour. Yep, 316 is 4 to 5 weeks away. I would say that too. Chauncey on the 24-hour stream said this best, which is where Star Citizen... The looting mechanic alone makes the game playable, like more replayable. And when 317 rolls around in like March, April of next year, the game will feel very different. If CIG doesn't do its CIG thing and gut the shit out of 317, 18, and 19 when they do their big reset in January. It doesn't feel like that's going to happen, but I've been wrong before when it comes to the roadmap. So... Not really. 316's adding refueling. That's a huge goddamn mechanic to add to the game. I don't think it'll add much gameplay early on because, refueling isn't really needed that much. But there's a bunch of stuff they're adding for 316, which are interesting adds. I feel like 316 would have been gutted already if it was going to be. Yeah, I will see... We have to see next week. If next Wednesday, when the next, roadmap roundup comes out, and that roadmap roundup will tell us what 316 is. They'll either gut it or it'll be good to go. There's a lot of signs pointing towards quarter 3, quarter 4 of next year for Squadron 42. Nope. We are not having Squadron 42 in quarter 3, quarter 4 of next year. We will have an announcement of Squadron 42 in quarter 3, quarter 4 of next year. That'll be the kickoff of their marketing campaign for a release of quarter 3, quarter 4 of 2023. Selling it to kiosks will also be a huge mechanic when that finally gets in. Yes. Well, do you think they should have waited for IAE to release 3.15 rather than push it, than do an IAE patch a few weeks later? I mean, it's potato at that point. Like, yeah. What chips are you hyped about to see at IAE in the future, Paul, or in the future? I'm not really looking forward to ships at IAE. I always like doing so. People have asked me this: am I going to do my lore tours? I am going to do the lore tours, and I'm going to do something special for the Best in Show. But I've got a lot of work to do in the next week or so. So I may not be streaming on Sunday. We'll see. I'm probably gonna go hang out with some friends, and because they moved into town recently, and I want to go say hello to them. And so that'll probably happen because Cam also has the day off. But I also want to sit down after that and kind of work on some videos. Like I want to do a smuggler's guide to 3.15. Bring the Crusader crosses back, baby. It's all about the Mets, baby. And then after that, I want to release a lore video talking about regeneration, the lore of regeneration and what it means for the game, what it means for the story. I've already written out the script. I need to go back and kind of work over the script a little bit more, but then release that. So my plan is to have 2 videos out next week, to do 2 shorts next week. And then when IAE launches on that Friday, I've got to start doing lore tours for the IAE for every day up until Best in Show. Now, Best in Show, I'm going to do a Jax McCleary-esque museum piece on the Best in Show ships, where I'm going to go to each ship, show some B-roll of it flying, talk a little bit about its past, and that sort of thing. Because that's going to be how I do museum pieces from now on. I'm going to do some more in-fiction, in-lore video. And try to do one of those a month, if not one of those every 2 months. Because depending on how quickly I can turn those around. But it requires me to go through and do some, editing. But I'm definitely looking forward to ships in the future. I'm looking forward to the Corsair. Obviously, the Banu Merchantman. There's no ships that I'm super duper hyped for. The Perseus, I think I'm super duper hyped for the Perseus just because I want to see big fuck off cannons. I want to see that thing fucking fire. I thought you did the regen lore. We talked a little bit about it on the office hours, but I did write a script for it. And I never recorded. I recorded it and then I lost recording. But I've never really recorded it and put it down into that whole thing. So, cargo for the cargo god. I want my backpack. Yeah, I do too. Lies. He can't wait to get his grubbing mitts on the Redeemer. Why would I want to touch garbage? Mm-hmm. We need refueling, considering I can never leave the pads to refuel my ship. Well, that's the thing. Refueling isn't just Starfarer can refuel now. It's also a brand new system of refueling by going to, I guess, a kiosk and using the kiosk to refuel and rearm and repair your ship. So it's like 3.16 has some sneaky, complete changes of how the game is played. No longer is it MOBA glass based. I really want to see the Perseus and the Inferno having 2K rounds to make it a lot less worried about it now. Oh, Perseus and the Inferno having 2K rounds make me a lot less worried about it now. Okay. Thank you, Hot Dog. Welcome. On another note, looting armor with a female character model is completely broken. Literally not doable. You have to swap out undersuits, and even then the armor doesn't size properly to your character. No, it doesn't. Hey, Gil, how you doing? We were talking about your team earlier. Basically saying that y'all don't talk. And when y'all don't talk, it scares the shit out of me. Because when y'all doing things, you don't talk. You just show up and be like, here's people of the planet, bye. Like, fuck. Like, y'all climb out of your caves and are like, here's our beautiful Van Gogh that we painted in secret in the dark. Where are you going? We're going to do something else in another cave. We'll tell you in 3 months. Refueling is huge. So too are the taxi missions, and folks are underselling them. Well, taxi's not until 317, but yeah, people are definitely underselling taxi. People like the appearance sign. It's alive! It's alive! Yeah. How you doing, Gil? How was the convention? I know you were at a convention recently. I heard good things about it. Let's just say, what are you, the ship tech team now, Gil? Shit. That's something I expect from John Crew to say. There's some great things. We're working on some great things. Shit. It was amazing. I got very drunk. It's not a convention unless someone gets bonkers ass drunk. So where is the armor on the roadmap these days? Where's armor? Like ship armor? We have no fucking idea. That is probably the last big question now that server meshing has been more fleshed out, is physicalized systems, like the movement away from time to kill to more time to disable, and where the fuck is the armor system? Now, they did mention that the armor system is something that they're planning around with the ballistic rounds situation, where they want to physicalize armor, and so they don't want to like give everyone infinite ammo, a ton of ballistic ammo until they get armor in. But they also said that's a long-term problem, so that doesn't seem like it's going to be something that happens in the next few months. Possibly not more for a year, though. Look for the keyword physical. There's a card that refers to ship armor, behaviors, and destructibility on the progress tracker. Okay, let's take a look at that real quick. Roadmap. Deliverables. Physical damage and breakability, I guess is the one. Making use of physics engine to create a system that looks and behaves realistically when large objects such as ships are damaged by weaponry or colliding with one of the ships or locations. I don't know if that's... I don't think that's a armor thing. Physical QT movement. Yeah, that's not an armor thing, I don't think. Yeah, probably more the physical side of things. Armor coming with salvage, I would think. No, I don't think so. Here's the thing. I saw a lot of people react to my salvage video that I did by saying, like, well, there's a bunch of things that are yet to be in the game. And the answer is they don't really need those. Like people are like, oh, you need to be physicalizing like components to have that work. And the answer is you don't. You just need to have components in a slot. And I think every ship has a slotted for a component on it now. You don't even need like, I mean, I guess you kind of need persistence, but persistence is coming in Q2. You know, I possibly more like Q3, but we'll see. That's one of the weird things that I'm like, I am more willing to believe that persistence is coming in Q2 because I said that server meshing wasn't coming until Q3 or Q4, and that's exactly where they said. So I'm like, I kind of feel like that. Drake's lore actually have good armor. At least they did in concept. Cheaper materials doesn't mean lighter armor. You look at old ironclad ships. Drake relies more on its shields than it relies on its armor. But Drake has also changed a lot, and it's from its initial concept to what it is today. So, and it's much more of fast, heavily armored, or heavy armed, and big shield with light armor, but and no safety procedures. So. It's awesome we just have devs chilling here with us. So I've known okay. Story time with Paul Shelley. I've been around in the Star Citizen community long enough to see community members become developers. Jake, going from a friend who I've known and gone to many conventions with, got drunk with on multiple occasions. He's been on the captain's table. I've been on multiple like. I've been to Citizen Cons with him. Met his wife. Like I know Jake. Jake is a friend. He works for CIG now. You know, there's multiple people like that. Underscore, Waka, Bear, Fall. Like a lot of people who I know who work for CIG now who were just members of the community for a long time. Alex, was a guy I knew who did a lot of cinematic stuff for Star Citizen. And the thing that I've realized is that Star Citizen is an interesting game because it doesn't force its developers to hide. Most games are developed in secret because they don't want people to know about that they exist until they're ready to reveal it, which is usually only a couple of months away from release. So it's a two-edged sword. One, you don't have to deal with the toxic ass shit that gamers can get into. But the other problem is that you have no fucking idea if the game you're making is going to be fun. Because it could work great for you, but then the only other outside sources are either paid QA who are not in the studio or playtesters who are usually paid for by the developer or by the publisher to figure out what they actually want. So having the ability to just sit down with a community member, even if they're being total assholes, and ask them what they want or what they like or dislike is pretty big. And because CIG doesn't ban employees from talking with the community, and I'm assuming in some cases they encourage it, you get a much more of a we're all in this together kind of feel. Like the developers become fans of their own work and become encouraged to work on the game harder because they know the people who are playing their game. It's like making a game for friends and family at a certain point. So devs being in chat and streams like this, I am humbled by the fact that y'all show up to my mad ravings. But it works, and it's not just me. Developers will show up to tiny streamers. Some developers themselves stream. So it's an interesting, cool thing. I started as a backer when I was back in uni. I didn't expect to work for them years later. Yeah. All right, Gil, I will also say this, which is, as far as I understand the story, Frankfurt team was created, and nobody told Chris that Frankfurt was working on Planet Tech. I always forget his name, but the head of the Frankfurt office basically took a couple of devs and said, go make planets. And they left for a couple of months and came back with a Planet Tech, the pupil of Planet Tech demo, and showed it to Chris. And Chris was just like, stop it. Shut it all down. We're doing this now. And by doing that, it like everything had to be reworked to work with Planet Tech. And so everything had to get like completely stopped. Took a crowbar to it, ripped it open, monkeyed in the insides to make sure everything works, pull it all together, and then jam it back in together to make it work. So that was that is, I don't think it's even like a freaking theory at this point. Treesan, $100. Thank you for great stars and info and for supporting a great cause. Thank you. We've reached $285. Heck yeah. So I'm going to give away, it's weird because I'm streaming on YouTube and Twitch, so I don't want to like disenfranchise people on YouTube. So what I'll do is tomorrow I will give away an event, the armor on stream. And if we reach the 500 goal tonight or tomorrow, I'll give that away as well. That's crazy because I'm a software engineer and major and thought about applying for a job. It's not a bad job. Todd Pappy? No, Pappy is, I don't want to say, it wasn't Pappy. It was Brian Chambers, I think is the one who's involved with that. It's so fucking sick to have been seeing development for so long. I think I started watching it in 2014. Yeah, it's weird to see, like, you follow development. It's you see how the sausage gets made in real time. I'm someone who's always been fascinated with game development and how it works. Watching like documentaries and getting information from various sources to see like how games are made. Star Citizen's development has been a lot of, oh yeah, I'm very familiar with how this stuff works, and also a lot of, oh, that's how that works kind of thing. Jared. Yeah. Oh, I discovered you when you were on Infrarun getting your fleet fixed. I mean, I did take their advice. Their advice was to just pull everything into that one pack, and I got that pack. I still don't have any clue of what I'm going to do with the ships I have. The fun thing I love about the people at CIG is the funny and trolly way they interact with the community. I'm glad that they're more open with interacting with the community. It still could lead to some utter disasters, but it's not bad as long as they, you know, the fact that they're more willing to deal with my utter hatred for the Redeemer. I hate the Redeemer. I hate it. $500 update goal. There we go.
Weapons free, y'all.
Give Boomslang. Yeah, please. But why though? What do you mean, Croft? What do you mean by buff? It's just like why I hate the Redeemer? God. I don't want to keep explaining it. It's ugly and I hate how it was made. That's it. Any news on lava tech? I mean, river tech. It's being worked on. I think that's the answer. If we're gonna actually look at the monthly report for Squadron 42, but let me go over. Let me see if it has. Everything in there right now, but they do have a lot of content about making rivers look good, because like if you ever looked at water, you'll know the difference between, say, a lake, a river, and an ocean, or a sea and an ocean. They look different, they act different, the way that the water moves is different, the coloring is different. So one of the things they've recently done is gone through and worked on water tiles to make river tiles look a little bit better or look different from ocean tiles, which is the last thing I remember seeing in an update a couple of months ago. So whoever you find in Medical Beacon from Paul, be sure to rescue him with a Redeemer. I hate you all. Hate all of you. It's basically a Pelican from Halo. No, that's the Valkyrie. The Valkyrie is basically a Pelican from Halo. I've had some great in-game with... Xylo's a troll. Like, he's a self-avowed, lifelong troll. That's just how he works. It looks lovely. Thank you, Gil. So, official CIG announcement that rivers are lovely now. They look lovely. All right, so let's look at the Squadron 42 monthly report, because someone asked me to go through this. I will. But it's important to remember that this may contain spoilers. Usually they're pretty good about these sorts of things and they don't put in a lot of spoilers, but you could have some spoilers. So if you want to move away, if you want to find another thing to watch, thank you for watching. Please come back when we don't do spoilerific content. But I can almost guarantee you, just flicking through this, I can almost guarantee you there is no spoilers in this content. Or, I mean, other than stuff you'd know about Squadron that you already follow, if you follow Squadron. You know if there's an underwater city in lore? No, there is ice cap cities and water-bound cities, but no underwater cities. All right, I've had this thought for a while now, and I have asked multiple people that play Star Citizen about it. Is it worth getting a Pioneer ship, or will it be necessarily for base building? We never know if it's going to actually be necessary for base building. At last we heard, the current design idea is not that it's not going to be necessary for base building. It's just going to be a factory that builds pieces for base building and has a lot of aspects of base building. But if you look at any other Star Citizen content out there, from mining to weapons to salvage to medical, you don't need a ship to function for those things. You just need a tool. And so it's more than likely that there will be some sort of tool or some sort of smaller ship or some sort of portable vehicle or just item that will be used to do the same thing that the Pioneer does. The Pioneer just does everything in one and has a large capacity and can carry crew and all that sort of things. It's the difference. It's like having a Pioneer is like having a ship that builds things. It's a construction ship, but you don't need construction equipment to build houses. You don't need a construction crew to build houses. You just need some tools and the right equipment, right stuff. So. Why do I hate the Redeemer? Because Redeemer bad. That's why I hate the Redeemer. The short story is the Redeemer was not made to be a ship in Star Citizen. It was made to win a contest. It does not fit with the kind of design aspects of Aegis, so it doesn't look like an Aegis ship. In fact, the entire design philosophy of the Redeemer seems completely alien to Star Citizen, at least for human manufacturing. And it also beat out a bunch of other ships, which were designed, I think, better. They were more in line with the theming of Star Citizen in terms of their manufacturers and just in-game in general. And because those teams hit a snag in development, or they just weren't as far along, and they didn't have as much snazzy marketing, because Four Horsemen team that built I think it was Four Horsemen who did the Redeemer, were very good marketers. They did a very good job of promoting their ship to the community. So it won because it captured the attention and the meta, the things that people were interested. Like right now, people are like, give server meshing, and for like ships that they want the Bandy Merchantman, and they want all these different things. People are hyped about very specific aspects of the game. Back then, it was like, put a microwave and a coffee maker in the game, in the ship, and they did that, and people lost their fucking minds. They pandered to the community well. That's how they did it. And I'm not saying that the team is bad or that those people are untalented. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying they did what they were supposed to do to win a contest. And I don't like a ship that's built designed for a contest in a universe that has very unified theming otherwise. All right, here we go. 2 Squadron 42 recruits. Subject development update 11/3/2021. Reference CIG UK, DE, LA, and Texas. FAO Squadron 42 recruits. Welcome to October Squadron 42 development report. Enclosed, you'll find all the details and latest progress made across the campaign, including updates to vital backend services, AI behaviors, and cockpit communications. Thank you for your continued support of Squadron 42. Sincerely, CIG Communications. AI content. Along with actor status, work started with the PU. The AI content team progressed with specific Squadron 42 tasks, including the cryopod and the simpod usables. The simpod usable is a workstation where the player or NPC can train. Once complete, it'll be available for NPC gunners to practice turret skills in a safe space. The cryopod usable is a cold storage container for preserving humanoids with vital signs displayed on external screens. The first iteration allows NPCs to check the occupant's health on the terminal and clear frost from the pod's window. Animators also polished the motion capture data collected earlier this year. This is the last step in delivering the usable interactions initially requested for the Asiato level. Later, Gil. AI features. The AI features team mainly focused through October was the Vanduul combat behavior, which is heavily focused on melee, allowing team to progress on previously detailed combo attack system. New additions include perimeters to combo attacks and to rapidly prototype faster melee animations by adjusting scale behavior. This allows them to quickly balance the speed of animation so that the pace of close-range combat can be altered in case or increase or decrease of challenge to the player. Motion warp targeting now allows for throughout the melee attacks so that the characters can readjust their positioning to correctly hit their targets. The team also improved ways of staggers can be triggered. Now larger characters can have staggers triggering after sustained bullet fire to interrupt their melee attacks. The team also worked on pre-visualization for the Vanduul cinematic experience, and animations for specific navigation setup to allow NPCs to duck under obstacles, and surrendering and untrained cover usage. Hey, Doug. So the Vanduul are how we're gonna get our melee mechanic and systems, and hopefully melee weapons and like swords. Probably. Right now it's just animations, but I can't imagine it won't end up in human hands at some point. Last month, the animation team worked on various AI behaviors, including purposeful and frantic interactions with consoles, navigation under broken doorways, the breaking of computer servers and vents, and searching over railings and around boxes and vents. They also spent time working on Vandal combat alongside the AI team, blocking out animations for Vandal breaking through closed or partially closed doorways and breaking equipment. Improvements continued on zero-G gameplay and player ground-based animations. On the facial side, the team continued to improvement pass on the next set of characters. The development of in-game scenes continued to give narrative to life to the environment, including motion capture pickup as needed. It's a lot of information. Yeah, this isn't spoilers, but we're getting a lot of information that is exclusive to Squadron that we don't normally see in Star Citizen. And I know why they don't talk about it. The character art and tech teams spent the month polishing the Navy faction of Squadron 42, reworking many old outfits to match the current quality standards. This included the bridge officer jackets, battle dress uniform sweaters, and Navy medical staff outfits. They also polished the heads and hair of important characters like Bishop and Trejo. Now, all of this stuff is stuff if you've seen this, the vertical slice, you've seen elements of this anyways. Breaking servers in Asiato. The environmental art team supported the project milestone, helping to bring a visual quality to the work being shown off by other teams. Elsewhere, the team continued to work across numerous chapters, including chapters 5, 12, and 13, and pushed vertical slices to a high visual standard on chapters 7 and 19. Further progress was made on creating stellar-looking spacescapes to bring more vibrancy and wow factor to cinematic space scenes. Audio continued to investigate Squadron 42's systems and planned future support for the campaign. Cinematics team worked heavily on the opening chapter of the game, which received a much-deserved Planet Tech and Vista overhaul. New spacescaping meant the team needed to assess whether certain shots were still valid or required additional camera scouting to make the most of the new giant Stormwall Nebula. The cinematic designers always anticipate future elements in the game to frame their cameras with in mind, but the seeing of the actual vistas in camera can occasionally require framing to be reconsidered. The sun changed position by a couple of degrees due to art buildup too. Variants of existing ships like the Bengal were concepted, built, and delivered, while new... what? I'm sorry, what? What? Variants of existing ships like the Bengal were concepted, built, and delivered. What? Okay, what the fuck did I just read? My brain is hurting. Okay. While new ships were created for the Vandal fleet, all bridge scenes featuring Admiral Bishop and his Vandal counterpart progressed too. Most scenes received their prop and finger contact pass. Now all officers are properly located in their seats, with their hands touching the reactive control. Woo, 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 spicy there. Woo, reactive touching the reactive controls. Huh. All right. This is getting a little too spicy for my take there. Woo. Whew. Yeah, variants could have been different armaments or different configurations of weapons and positions, but that's as moving as required. For example, finger grabbing a swivel display properly. Time also went into creating reusable stunt sequences of ships battling or getting destroyed that might be viewed by player from a corridor window or a ship's bridge during battle. A key turret sequence was fleshed out, with cutaways created to distinguish waves and different challenges. This led to a lot of nav splines being drawn up and improved upon. Finally, cinematics. First, cinematics, the recent spacescaping fleet editions, Mocap Push, and Tweak Sun made it possible to rethink the opening shot of the game, making it better and more dynamic. Good to know. Engine. Last month, the physics team spent time on optimizations. The process for voxelization triangular meshes were sped up by utilizing scanline-based... Okay, right. Fuck. I forgot. This is Engine. I'm sorry, but I understand about 5 words in the Engine sections of these monthly updates. So I apologize if I skip over my words or I screw something up because I have no fucking idea what they're saying half the time. So I'll do my best. Help me out when you can, chat. Last month, the physics team spent time on various optimizations. The process of voxelizing triangular meshes was sped up by utilizing a scanline-based acceleration structure instead of a voxel-based when flood-filling cells. The team also helped AI code to optimize their update route for the audio map by batching the stimuli processing. Furthermore, the sorting of collision events was optimized, and default brush physics are now created lazily. A debug visualization for collision history was implemented too. Lastly, for physics, a tree-based quantum grid was implemented that will be used during quantum travel boosting and regular quantum travel to detect collisions and obstacles along the path. This is just the copy and paste from the Squadron, from the Star Citizen group. So this is just copy paste from Star Citizen. So I'm going to skip this. Okay, and here we go. The last one. The core team also worked on entity streaming code, which now supports sphere-face calling needed for Squadron 42. A large refactor was submitted to the entity component update scheduler. This includes a new API that uses update IDs instead of passes to allow for multiple updates per pass. The engine's frame profiler was updated to include various statistics from heartbeat events, as well as summary of CPU time and memory usage by the dev teams. Build info and screenshot into the capture. Memory Manager was extended to support separate allocation arenas. This is all just copy and pasted. Yeah, this is all just copy and pasted. They just put Squadron. They replaced Star Citizen for Squadron 42. Hey, Gamma, how you doing? Gameplay features completed smaller support tasks alongside progressing on several highly complicated cinematic sequences. Much of this involved technical issues with how the engine has had to change to support object container streaming. As some legacy systems aren't streaming aware, the team had to find ways to fix references to vehicles that aren't loaded by default, but spawned later on a mission. With the base character customizer working in-game, the team continued to liaise with the related teams to prototype the user experience. Several changes were made to remove some hard-coded limits, such as the number of areas on the face where players can amend or the number of heads they can blend between. The team notes that this can be challenging to create an intuitive interface without hampering the power and freedom of the system. Throughout October, Gameplay Story worked on a wide variety of scenes and chapters. Polish work was done across Chapter 1, with several scenes updated with new audio, while the Graves walk and talk in Chapter 5 progressed well. A briefing scene in Chapter 8 received new mocap, while a complicated scene from Chapter 12 was completely overhauled. Tactile interaction progressed too, which, though difficult to implement, makes the characters feel more alive and present in the world. Graphics and VFX programming. The graphics team's improvements to water volumes continued, this time focusing on how to correctly simulate volumetric lighting under the surface. This is the same as this is copy-pasted from Star Citizen stuff. The Space/Dogfight team continued their work to expand patrol spaces. Last month, they incorporated more optional points of interest in the early parts of the game, with some of the players' actions in these areas potentially having ramifications on future chapters. They also worked closely on the ship AI team to create more realistic and challenging AI behaviors to allow for better close-quarters dogfighting combat. Having gone through the entire ground-based areas of the game down to the opening door level, the FPS team began fleshing out the spaces with AI and new mechanics. The social design team continued to do a significant job of implementing all in-game scenes for the various chapters for review and sign-off, which will be the case for many months to come. Last month, the narrative team putting the improvements to the placeholder dialogue pipeline outlined in September's report into action alongside the dialogue and design teams. This revised process allows for the team to quickly place newly written dialogue into the game for playtesting. As the game was being refined, it's often a single line of dialogue that needs to be adjusted rather than the whole scene. So revised tracking documentation was worked on to better help the team monitor the status of additional dialogue requests as they come in. The team also improved a few tutorial scenes to better instruct the player on key gameplay elements. Scenes that are tied closely to gameplay are often continuously improved as development progresses. QA. Cinematics continued to rely on QA for regular chapter testing. Also last month was geared towards cinematic tool testing and ironing out many of the tools detected for rendering scenes. They also continue to support the AI team behavior implementations, focusing on AI improvements and upgrading AI functions. Okay, I'm going to go back a little bit because this is a little bit. So narrative team, they're just doing spot checks. So for those of you who don't know, how games are developed often in this kind of situation is you can create a scene at a diner, right? Say busy city in a diner, cyberpunk diner. In a normal narrative situation with a movie or television show, you don't have much of a difference. You can set it in the day and at night. You may have busy or calm, but those are all cost time and money to set up. So you usually kind of pick a general theme and go with it because it's expensive to get extras or expensive to get machines to create simulated rain or expensive to shoot in specific times of night or during the day or day for night or whatever. But with video games, that's just a click of a button. So changes can happen on the fly with various different elements of gameplay storytelling. And because of that, you have to be a little bit more flexible. A mission that starts off with this full dialogue, the dialogue can be mostly right, but a couple things need to change because say you want to add a little bit of a level here to make it more interesting. So that's what they're doing, is they're just going in and slotting in better lines that make more sense with the changed mission aspects. There's going to be underwater stuff. That's nutty. Yeah, they've been saying that for a while. We're going to have underwater stuff. So they're doing close quarters combat. They're doing complete rework of FPS team stuff. Work on extended patrol spaces. Last month, they incorporated optional points of interest in early parts of the game, with some players' actions being in these areas potentially having ramifications for future chapters. So they're setting up like points of like that kind of change the dynamics of what's going on. This is all game story. So this seems to be just overall making the story flow. So Graves walk and talk in chapter 5. I don't know who Graves is, but that's probably a person because it's capitalized. Chapter 8 received new mocap. Complicated scene 12 was completely overhauled. Polish workers cross chapter 1. Technical engine. Yeah, so this is just they don't have everything. They're going back and working on old assets in Squadron that didn't even have OCS in them. So OCS isn't even fully implemented in Squadron. That's what this is telling me. Squadron is fucking like 3 years behind Star Citizen. Jesus. Now, obviously that's not everything, but that's pretty telling right there. We made a base character customizer working game. So yeah. So this is something we're seeing in 316 Star Citizen. Obviously they made it work in 316, which is why they made it work, and then they're porting it to 316 like they usually do. That's all normal. So the cinematics is pretty big. It looks like they're going through and really working and kind of dialing in the first chapter, which is the first part, first mission for Squadron. This thing still blows my mind. Variants of the Bengal. They're adding more like background explosions and fleet battles and mocap polishes. Environmental art supported project milestone, bringing a visual quality to the work being shown by other teams. Also, continue to work across multiple chapters. Working on spacescaping and the wow factor, so for spacescapes. So yeah. Character art team, tech team spent much of the Navy focusing, so reworking some of the Navy uniforms to bring them up to what we've seen in, say, Invictus. AI behaviors is working on the Van Duel. Improving continue on zero-G gameplay and other ground-based animations. A lot of work on the Van Duel. The Cryopod and Simpod are both using, like, the AI can kind of go in and get out of those. It sounds like we may have something to do with that. I don't know. All right. October saw Tech Animation complete their long-running task updating the head creation animation pipeline. We've rewritten major parts of the DNA system to create our in-game actors. Coupled with this, we have added support for creating and editing these head assets in Maya through a plugin that shares the same code base with a huge amount of tooling to use it effectively. This has allowed us to move beyond our current gene pool limits and set our eyes on the future. I think this is actually copied from Star Citizen as well. Additional tooling was created throughout the quarter to include embedded cache export in the animation pipeline. It was always supported, but including it in this way has opened up new opportunities for the animation and tech teams to directly include their animation pipelines for reference. The team are planning on leveraging technology for some impressive showpieces during Squadron 42. Okay. The UI team created decals for a specific level and new building block styles to use for interactive screens in some of the key environments throughout the game. VFX continued to work detailed last month, with the Strike team working closely with cinematics in particular, helping them populate epic battle scene with visual effects. Okay. So, the answer is some aspects of Squadron are very behind Star Citizen, and others are more focused. It seems like a little bit heavy focus, obviously, on combat, with some social aspects. A lot of AI work was working on that, so... yeah, very... So the answer is Squadron 42 is still in development, to help you out with that. Does Drake Submarine have a screen door? No. I don't think I saw anything about Drake Submarines. But yes, for those of you who didn't see this in the last monthly update, they are doing work with underwater lighting because they plan on underwater exploration. Remember, everything we just read was from October. So... any Drake ship is a sub if you're Canopy. If you're a crappy enough pilot. Anyway, going through all that stuff. Yeah, if you like me to go through the Squadron stuff, I can. As a lot of people know, I know most of the story. By accident. Whoops. So, I'm still interested in it. It's interesting to see what they're doing with it, though. I'm very interested to see how it goes. I'm not going to spoil it. I don't plan on spoiling it. And the thing is that the information I have is based off of audio files, which are 5-6 years old now. And it's around the same time that Star Citizen or Squadron started to shift away from what it was going to be in 2016 to what it is going to be in 2023 or 24, whenever that comes out. Well, the Odyssey be teased as the mystery ship. It isn't said to be an exploration ship, and not a refinery ship, though. Yeah, that's the one thing where I'm a little confused based off of Leaks information, because it sounds like Leaks information says there's not going to have any refinery ships, But everything CIG has said indicates that a refinery ship is going to be announced in some way, shape, or form for IAE. So I don't know. Money on Paul waking up an unmeltable Redeemer? They won't do it. They won't do it. Well, I already know the story of Squadron 42. Just play Wing Commander. It's pretty much it. It's a lot more complicated than that. I can tell you that the design philosophy, without spoiling any stories, the game is heavily based around a mission where your goal is set. You have a mission goal. There are sometimes steps, but most of it is up to you to approach and complete a mission how you like to. So if you want to go completely stealth, if you want to try to go in guns blazing, if you want to try other approaches, they'll probably handhold a little bit for these approaches. But the point of the game design is not so much a linear path, but a branching path that goes to the same end. So you could imagine this is not real. This is more of a theoretical. Rescue a VIP from being from who's being captured. They say this VIP is captured by this group of people. Go. It's your job to track down where that VIP is captured. How do you approach that VIP where that VIP is being captured? What route do you take to the VIP? And then how do you get the VIP out? But the mission isn't, go here, do this, hit this button, go through here. It's like, this is your general goal. Go. That's the mission philosophy and design philosophy of Star Citizen. So when they showed off like the Asiato station and people were like, it's a fucking space station. Who gives a shit? That's a level. That's like an entire chapter in the game. I don't know what it's for necessarily. I mean, I do know what it's for. I 100% know what it's for. But yeah, it's like an hour plus gameplay. Like it's not insignificant. Like you're going to spend time in that fucking station. But yeah. Hopefully that's not spoilers for anybody. Oh, Escobar, thank you so much for subscribing, my man. Shots and cheers in chat. Let's get some beers up in here. All right, I've gone way beyond the 2-hour limit I usually set for myself. I've been doing that recently. Considering the size of it, it'll probably take an hour to walk from one side to the other. That's not including any kind of obstacles or enemies that you may have to face. So, Sam, I've already said this. I told you this multiple times why I hate the Redeemer. Listen. Listen. All right, y'all. I'm going to bed. Thank you for hanging out with us here at the Astropub. If you enjoyed this, hit that follow button if you're watching this on Twitch. Subscribe to us if you're watching on YouTube. Like the video if you like this. Help spread the word. Remember to hit the little bell icon on YouTube for notifications. We'll be back tomorrow with some group gameplay. We'll be doing some group bunker missions. Maybe some practice for the Revolution. We'll see. But yeah, thank you for joining us. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black. Adieu. Oh, there's no swoosh. Hold on, let me fix that. Let me fix the swoosh. Someday in the back. Someday in the black. There's a swoosh. Swoosh!